And now, everyone, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to your host, Ronald Diltz.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I want to give a special welcome to our guests that are here on campus, as well as our guests that are here with us online. How are you guys doing today? It's already been a long day. So welcome to Filmmaking from beginning to the end, pre-production to production. So I want to give a warm welcome to our wonderful guests. We're going to go down the line. Producer and film MFA graduate, Eduardo Aguirre.
Thank you for having me.
We have second assistant director, and now producer, Mr. Lara Katz, our 2013 Hall of Famer. We have an executive assistant for Spotlight Pictures, film graduate Alfredo, Lara, Orbezo. And we have a film director, writer, and editor, our 2016 Hall of Famer inductee, Stephen C. Miller. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with us here today. So first off, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions today because it's a very important panel. So let's go down the line and you guys tell us, what do you do to prepare for pre-production?
Start first. Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo. Well, for pre-production, I always start with the basics, a checklist. What do you need to get started? From pre-production to post-production, I always get my checklist and just go down the line.
Nice.
Well, from my perspective, we're prepping a narrative film or television project, so gonna take the script and break down each scene into its elements and start defining how we're doing every word that's written on the page of the script. So my department is responsible for breaking it down in its scenes and then organizing the order that we're going to shoot the scenes in and what scenes are going to be shot on which day.
What's up, guys? For me, having worked with producers, I think the two main elements that come to my mind right now are the substance, what the film or what the project is about, what you want to end up achieving at the end. And also, I think it's extremely important to assemble the right team of people. Breaking it down, like Lara was just saying, it's important, but also, having the right person on each position, I think it's just elemental, because you cannot afford to, once you're out there, be worrying about, everybody's work, everybody has to be on point, so, I think that's one of the most important things about it, surround yourself with the right elements and the right, humans, I guess, to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, what these guys said is all 100% true. In fact, I'm in pre-production right now. But my first step, as soon as I land anywhere, is locations for me. I like to go out and find my locations the first week while I'm there, while we're doing interviewing, while we're looking for crew and things like that, because the quicker I find locations, the quicker that we can get started on working out sequences, how we're going to make the scenes work there. I also don't like to move the company that much. I like to find one major sequence and then kind of get a mile radius of that and stay within that radius. So I try to do that all in the first week. It allows me to shoot quickly, stay efficient, and by doing that early on, everyone already knows where we're going to be and how we're going to work there. So that, to me, is how I start every movie.
Awesome. So you all are Full Sail graduates. What's some information we can pass along to the students right now? What's so different about what we learned here and what's really going on in the industry?
Well, it's not too different, actually. I just graduated last year, so I was fresh with all my knowledge and from school. When I moved to the real world, that same thing, same lights, same concepts of storytelling. Whatever you learn here in Full Sail, you just gonna use it every day in your job.
Yeah, I mean, we really simulate studio production here. It's just bigger, but there's a couple things we can't do here. We can't simulate transpo. Transpo is like the blood of a film production, and there's no way for us to simulate that here. So you're gonna see, on your first day on a set, there's a lot of vehicles and trucks and vans and trailers and picture cars, and so we can't really, simulate that here. But For me, if you've been in my class, you know that I believe that prep is the most important phase of production. It doesn't matter how awesome of a filmmaker you are, or how creative you are, or how strong of an AD you are. If you don't have a plan that you're set up to success, then it doesn't matter on the day. So prep, here I try to really push that prep is the most important phase of all of this. So that I think, what do they say? A failure to plan is a plan for failure. So you want to go into the production with a plan that we all know that we can do.
I think also adapting to a lot of different situations is important. Knowing that once you're out there, like Larry just mentioned, having a plan for absolutely everything. Even sometimes backup plans fail all the time. Here the beauty of this this place is that you get to learn with so many wonderful people under most of the time very controlled circumstances, right? So if something goes wrong most of the time, it's I guess in a weird way of saying it, you can afford to make those mistakes, because nothing is gonna nothing bad is gonna happen after that. But once you're out there, you're dealing with budgets, right? You gotta meet certain deadlines as well. You're dealing with people that will have to get paid for overtime if you keep just shooting all day long. So I think adapting is a very important set of things as well. So just being ready for whatever comes up.
Yeah, I think Full Sail prepares you for a lot of things that you're going to encounter when you first get out there. I think one of the biggest things that it does and that you're doing every single day, whether you're in class or not, is interacting with everybody. And that's a community, and that's a film set is a community. And learning to interact with people and knowing how to talk to people and how to creatively energize people is all part of making a movie. And really, it's one of the bigger parts of making a movie, because if your crew's excited about what you're doing, if your crew's happy with what you're doing, then guess what? Your movie goes smoothly. Because those are the guys carrying your cables, doing all the work, the main guys, right? And so that interaction here now is preparing you on how to deal with those interactions later on. And I think that's something you can do and not even be in a classroom. And so I think that's what's really great about this campus and what it is now, especially with everyone interacting. That to me, it was a big help for me because I was never one that was really great with people. And being surrounded by so many people all the time, it really helped me to learn to communicate a little better. So I think that's what's great for me.
Sweet. What impact do you guys feel that communication plays from pre-production going into production?
I think that's the key, especially when you are working on a bigger set or whatever you're doing. If you don't communicate well with each person on set, something can go wrong. And like Alfredo said, you can't afford that. You have deadlines, you have so many people to work with, and you have to just make sure everyone knows what to do and you're communicating in the best possible way.
In prep, one of the main roles of the first AD in prep is to set meetings with departments. Again, we need to define how we're doing every word that's written in the script, not from an artistic or a performance standpoint, but from a nuts and bolts standpoint. So we need, the first AD in prep will call meetings with all the department heads, and we're communicating, okay, who's got the blood? Is it wardrobe? Is it costumes? Is it makeup? How many changes do we have? How many squibs do we have? Special effects? Have you talked to wardrobe? Wardrobe, have you talked to makeup? So we want to have those conversations and make sure that everybody, knows. So communication is key. And then on the day, obviously, we've already had those conversations in prep. We can't be talking about it for the first time on a production day. So, the communication then is, kind of reminding us, oh yeah, we talked about that before. But yeah, it's huge. And a big part of my job in prep is facilitating those meetings and setting meetings. So, you have the AD telling, Mr. Spielberg and, Janusz Kaminski, okay, we're meeting on Wednesday at 3 o'clock or else it won't happen, So really facilitating that communication falls in under our umbrella.
Communication has to be clear all the time. It's important, I think, at least from a producing standpoint, perhaps to be able to transmit what the overall picture is. To be able making sure that everybody, regardless of how important or how less important their job might be, everybody plays an elemental role at the end of the day, right? In the production, So it's just elemental, you know. Otherwise, you know, if you have people in different channels and you know, doing things separately and independently speaking, it's just. I mean, it's just hard to think about anything getting done, you know, not just movies, but anything, overall speaking. So it's a team effort, it's a collaboration, and yeah, has to be clear to the slightest of details.
Yeah, I mean, from a directing standpoint, communication is pretty much my job. You know, communicating the vision of the movie to every single one of my department heads to make sure that they're all on board with what aesthetic I want is, you know, insane. You know what I mean? You have to be able to break that down very clearly, because you don't want to get to set and they, you know, colored a wall a certain color you didn't want or whatever, something like that. And that does happen if you're not communicating very clearly from my directing standpoint. So, I mean, that's something that I'm doing not just in, I mean, every single minute of prep, but entirely through the shoot, is I'm continually communicating with everyone, especially my first AD, who is sort of like my best buddy from day one when I land, you know? And so we are communicating daily. In fact, I bounce ideas off my first AD sitting in the office constantly, part of just communicating and letting him know this is how many times I'm going to need, or how long I'm going to need to shoot this scene, how long I'm going to need to shoot that scene. I want to focus all my energy on this action scene and kind of back my way into dialogue. That's, you know, that's all part of my communicating with my team. So he plans out my days appropriately because I shoot a very distinct way. So for me, communicating is my livelihood.
Nice. So oftentimes we know in film production, sometimes things don't go as planned.
What?
Like, is that a secret? How do you guys handle setbacks? And I mean, what's the best advice you can give for setbacks?
Well, first of all, don't freak out. Just calm down and just think of the best solution, or just analyze everything. What went wrong, where, and what can we do about it? We can speed things up, because you're losing time when that happens. So you need to come up with good solutions, something that everybody can work on.
I mean, it's inevitable. We plan and plan and plan and plan, and we're gonna show up and something is gonna change everything. It's inevitable. So, I mean, the people that, in my opinion, that are successful in film production are the people that can roll with that, you know, that don't panic or freak out. That doesn't help anything. And, you know, if you've had a diligent prep, then you already kind of know what the options are of what we can fall back on. And, you know, with the amount of time that I spend with the script, you know, I want to be able to say, okay, so this actor's late. What do we have here? Okay, what about scene 83? Maybe we can pull that up. But I've done such a diligent prep that I know the script inside and out and what elements are available so that we can seamlessly move on to something. You know, we just don't ever want to be standing around waiting. You know, we always want to have a plan B and a plan C, and you should already be thinking about that as part of your prep. What if this goes fakakta? What can we do? What's our, you know, what can we slide over to? So it's inevitable that things are going, and I actually like on your student films when things go wrong. I like that. I want you guys to experience that. That's reality. How are you going to roll with that? You know, I'm not really that concerned with how your student films turn out. Sorry. You know, this is a class where you're supposed to be learning stuff and getting better. So I like when they get messed up, because, you know, that's reality. You're going to have to be able to react to that. So it's inevitable. You know, how you react to it is up to you. You know, the only thing you control is your attitude. So, you know, you can't control the way that somebody else talks to you or how somebody reacts to what you say. All you can control is how you react. So, you know, as those inevitable things happen, you know, you just got to kind of roll with it. And hopefully you've already thought about what you could do. What's plan B, plan C, plan D, plan Z?
Yeah, I think but like they both said the same thing. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, right? It's inevitable, and things happen, and I think personally speaking, the best way I can think about, you know, on how to, you know, solving problems is just simplifying what the situation is. You know, sometimes I tend to overthink a lot of, you know, on things, and I've realized that as time has gone by, and, you know, working and learning from so many people that I've had the chance to collaborate with, how do we simplify this problem? How do we approach it in a way that we stop looking at it as the huge mess that we think it is, but we just, figure out a way. And that's why you have all these people around you, it's not, it doesn't one person to figure out this.
Precious with what you planned on doing when you have problems come up. You just have to figure out what the solution is and move forward, because sometimes better things come out of the problems than you would have actually done in the first place. I've seen that firsthand. So there's really nothing else these guys haven't said, because it's all crucial information. And then the big one, I think, is that you don't, it's not your, you're not there by yourself. You do have a group of people that are going to put their heads together, and that goes back to that community of people that you trust, and to say, hey, I have this idea, they have that idea, and what are these ideas that we've formed to get us through this problem is crucial. So my big thing is I'm just really not precious with anything. I try to keep an open mind, and if I have to switch it up, I have to switch it up, and that's just part of the game. So yeah.
I think it's important, when a problem comes up, if I'm reacting to it and I have to approach the director, I don't want to, be pulling my hair out. I want to kind of be solution oriented about it. Like, hey, this just happened, but here's some things that we could do potentially, and maybe the director obviously would have ideas, and the DP might have ideas as well. But don't have a doom and gloom attitude. Oh my God, this just changed, and what do we do? Already start being
doom and gloom is contagious.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it starts from you. If you become that way, all of a sudden the rest of everybody's like that, and it's called slowing down. It just becomes a thing. So your job is to keep everybody up and running. And I think the more positive you are, and the more problem solving you are, everybody kind of takes that attitude.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. So this ties into my next question, and I'm just going to put this out there, so whoever cares to share. I love hearing stories and stuff that you guys go through. So tell us a negative experience that you have had in film production, and going, it could be pre-production into production, and how did you handle it?
I'll go first. So, I think it's, like they said, it's inevitable that you have negative things happen. I think for me, the roughest thing is when you have any of your actors that don't cooperate, especially when you're dealing with really big actors, and you're trying to figure out how you talk to them. And so from my experience, I've had actors that will get upset and leave, and I've had to go and basically take care of it in their trailer with them and things like that. And I think those are the kind of situations where you really find out what you're made of and how well you deal with people, because it can go bad really quick, and you have to be really prepared to solve the situation in the most delicate manner possible. And then, I've also been in situations where in prep, I'm supposed to be shooting a movie in 30 days, and then the producers or the studio comes to me and says, no, you have 13 days to shoot a movie, and we're 2 weeks away from shooting, and they cut half my movie out. And so to figure out those kind of problems in 2 weeks left to shooting, we're not talking like little movie, we're talking Lionsgate movies, that do this. So this isn't just like, anybody. So it happens, and it's a problem that you have to deal with. And for me, it's almost like a challenge that I kind of enjoy, to figure out how to do these kind of things. So that's an experience or two.
I've had, you're dealing with human beings still, and artists sometimes, and so you have actors that don't show up, and have to figure out what we're gonna do in the meantime, and send transpo over there to pound on their door, and wake up their agents or managers at 3 in the morning and say, hey, your client's not here. Stuff like that. Definitely seen mishaps on set, as far as, I've done a lot of second units and stunt stuff, and seen bad accidents, and seen stunts that didn't go like they were supposed to. And, then you have a lot of the producers and UPMs and financial check writing type people, go in, and then they have to make the call on what to do. And, we have film insurance, and so we can do insurance claims if something didn't go right, or if there was bad weather or something like that. But that stuff happens all the time, and so it's just how are you going to react to it? Let's just keep driving forward, be solution oriented, and just not stand around. Let's do something.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the toughest things that I've had to do it's knowing how to be the middleman, you know, because sometimes when working with producers, you got to do a lot of diligence, right? With departments, with people, with talent. You know, I'm sure you guys have obviously many stories to tell us about that, but and that's the toughest one, you know, because when you deal with talent, it's a different world, you know. But then again, you got to also report back to, you know, the people you're actually working for. So it's for me. I remember I was working in this show at Universal Studios, and you know we will have all these big time singers from all over the place, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and coming in and as guests, and just knowing how to keep a balance between a professional relation with them, with the managers, and making sure they will meet their call times and all this stuff that Larry just talked about, and some of them they're divas, right? I mean, let's face it, a lot of them they don't really understand the jobs that we all do, and they think that the world works around their schedules and their needs and everything. So, yeah, it's sometimes it's tough, but it's knowing how to keep that balance. You know, I guess just by getting more gigs and more experience, that's the only way you figure things out. There's honestly no formula for that. That's probably the toughest thing. You know, it's taken me quite a while to figure that out, honestly.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, dealing with talent sometimes it doesn't go as smooth as you would love to, and sometimes even with their managers or PRs, they change the schedule, they just move things around, and you have to adjust to that. You have to just come up with solutions like immediately, so you can finish your shoot and keep things going. You know.
Okay, sweet. So transitioning from pre-production to production, how do you know when you are ready to begin production?
Well, you have a deadline that tells you
Yeah.
you're going to shoot on one, So that is pretty much my, I just have to be ready when that deadline comes. I mean, that's the way it is. You get when you're working on any movie, you get a certain amount of weeks, whether it's 6, 5, 4, whatever that is. You have a start date, and usually there are hard start dates because of talent, and those talents have certain days they have to be there. So. I mean, I think you just have to be ready throughout pre-production. I mean, that's and you're just ramping up to that day. I don't think there really is all right, I'm ready to go moment. I think you just are continually ready to go from the day you get there. And it's just about, delegating everything in the right positions in the right places to make sure they're all ready to go with you. So, for me, I'm going on day one, but, you really do have a hard date that you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. There's a contractually specific prep time that the union mandates for directors that they get before they work on a feature or a TV show. But obviously on a big, visual effects movie like War for the Planet of the Apes, they have 6 months of prep because it's so many moving parts. We're taking motion capture that usually happens in a soundstage and putting it in the snow, and so it takes a while to figure that out. For me, I get pretty anxious going through prep, especially by the end, because we've been talking about it and building it up and building it up and building it up. So usually by the end of prep, I'm really ready to start shooting because I'm so, I'm tired of talking about it. We've made 87 plans over the course of prep. And, I'm really usually pretty ramped up and anxious by the time we start shooting. And then once we start shooting, it feels more, comfortable. Okay, now we're so dialed in on this. We've talked about it so much that, now it feels better just to be in production. But yeah, it's not like a moment where you're like, okay, we're ready, let's go.
But I think even at that point, you should never be afraid of going back and make changes to the pre-production plan, because you probably have to, and things will go smooth and the transition will be easier for everyone, I think.
I remember when I was hired to work on a Spectre in Mexico City, they brought me, and I had the idea that we will be in pre-pro for that, because that's what I was told during the interview. I thought we will be there probably 3 months, something like that. And then as soon as I landed, I found out that, we were, they were already, working on wrangling a lot of cables and, prepping the locations, and, our department was all over the place and stuff. So it was pretty mind-blowing, to be honest, So it was the first feature I worked on, but it just made me realize that, and, pre-production, it just fades in so quickly, right? So sometimes like you just, and I remember asking the person that hired me, I was wondering, I thought, we were just, getting ready for this. And they said, no, dude, we got to go out there and get it done. Talent is arriving next Monday, and this was on a Thursday and stuff. And, obviously they had some time to prep for all this stuff, but yeah, you just have to be ready and knock it out of the park. They told me it's not going to be 3 months, it's going to be probably a month, and that's all we got. We got to knock this big action sequence and bring all these cranes. We will have 3 helicopters coming in, and that's it. It's just, you just have to get it done. That's it.
Awesome sequence, by the way, man.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah, that was great. Well, thank you.
Opening of
I'll
Spectre.
tell them.
Okay, my next question would be, what are some important steps to follow to make sure production runs smoothly?
Just prep right. Really, you can't overlook that. You can't rush into it. It will affect, everything if you don't have all your ducks lined up. And again, like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter how awesome of a first AD I am. On the day, if we don't have a good plan going in, I can't put 100 pounds of whatever into a 50-pound bag. There's like so much that you can do. So for me, again, prep is the key to having a successful shoot.
Well, yeah, prepping the movie is the movie. So I mean, that's where it's at. I mean, shooting's easy. The prep is where it's at. Once I get to shooting, I've already done the movie in my head, like you said, 75 days worth. So by the time I get to the shooting process, it's just sort of like instinctual. It takes over and you just start going. But I think while you're in those moments, the key to making the production run as smoothly as possible is you yourself being as efficient as possible. And I think that goes back to, from a directing standpoint and from working with a cinematographer that you've been working with in prep, is that you don't get in there and decide, well, I want to do 5 different other things. Obviously, you get in there, you can be creative, and that's great. But to start changing it up to the point where everybody's kind of looking around and not knowing where you're going or where you're going to be next, it gets really difficult and starts to slow everything down. For me, I like to make sure that my crew knows where I'm going 5 steps ahead of me. So, my B camera's already setting up, over here, and I know that I'm going to be here a certain amount of time, being there a certain amount of time, and they already know where I'm going 3 or 4 steps ahead of me. And I think, to me, that's what keeps production running really efficient and allows me and my crew to get 80, 90 setups a day. So that's just sort of how we roll.
Yeah, and pay attention to details. I think sometimes we just forget about the little details on set or behind the camera, and those really make a big difference when you see the cut and you're like, oh, I forgot this or I forgot that. You have a green screen and then you forgot a prop. It was supposed to be in different colors, stuff like that. You just make sure you always take care of those details.
Yeah, and also just staying productive on it. Like thinking 1 or 2 steps ahead. It's important. Not that everybody has to be on it, because obviously you gotta get a certain amount of shots first. But I think it's important that you know absolutely, and you have a very clear idea of what's coming next, right? So that by the time you get to that point, you just keep going smoothly until the end. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one more question before we open up for questions for our wonderful guests. You guys still there with us? What are some steps that our students can be taking right now to prepare them for working in the industry in film production?
You need reps on set. I say it, to you guys every chance I get. Classes and labs. And even if you get perfect attendance and good grades, that's doing the minimum that you need to do here. You need to be on set as much as possible. There's production happening almost all the time here. Poke your head on a soundstage. Can I help you guys out? Hey, I see the trash is full. Let me grab that and take it out. Without having to ask. I promise, if it's a student film that I'm supervising and you just walk in and you keep your mouth shut, you can get close to the set and observe and watch people make mistakes, and then don't make those mistakes. Make new and horrible mistakes of your own, and then don't make those a second time. But I think that you need repetition on set to get that muscle memory, so that when you're trying to get a job as a professional, you've seen it before. At least you're still new and green like an avocado, but at least you've got a little muscle memory on it. I think that's the most important thing.
I would like to add to that when you're on set, make sure you learn from other people too. Like, if you want to be a director, make sure you know what the director is doing right and what is doing wrong, and you learn from that, and you learn a lot from other people. Even if you don't want to be a director, or you don't want to be a DP, but you're still learning about that. So you make sure you take care of those things too.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is learning it from everyone on set is really key too, because I mean, especially if you want to be a director or something like that, you should know what the grips do. You should know what the electrics do. You should know how long it takes them to take that cord from one area to the other area. That's going to affect how long it takes you to set up your next shot. You should know every piece of thing they pick up, what your DP's calling for, what lenses he uses. And that all goes back to being in these classes. It's all at your fingertips. Every piece of gear that I use in my movies is here in your school. Every lens that I use in my movies is here at your school. Every camera is here at your school. I know for me personally, when I was here, they had to kick me out of the labs because I was learning every piece of gear until my hands bled. And I was on every single machine, whether it was editing to cameras. And at that time, they didn't have Alexas or whatever we had. But I was on those 35 cams, and I was on, the editing bays, and I was in the grip departments. I think even for my 35, I chose not to do that. I chose to grip and electric instead. It was just because I wanted to touch everything. And so for me, that would be my advice. And the best preparation you can get is hands-on, because you have it here. And no other school does that in the country. And so for you guys, it's crucial and kind of fucking awesome. Sorry. So, I think that would be my advice.
We don't let them shoot anamorphic, though.
Yeah, they don't
like to shoot anamorphic.
I shoot anamorphic, yeah.
You guys don't get to shoot anamorphic.
Like Steven just said, this is a very, coming to this school is great because it's a very enhancing program. You get to do a lot of things in a very hands-on way, right? So I also like to try to imitate what people do, and especially people that I admire or people that I want to meet and I want to learn from. I don't know. I like to pay attention to them, to what they do, how they do it, how do they communicate. I remember when I was in the film program, I really didn't want to be, a gaffer or whatever, but I tried to, be on as many different positions as I could, so I could just at least understand what those jobs were. Like Steven just said, if you understand what other people do, it'll be easier for you to also understand, most importantly, whatever it is that you want to end up pursuing. And it will allow you to, collaborate in a more productive way with people. At the end of the day, you will understand what everybody's supposed to be doing, and you'll be able to diligent and communicate and, transmit the same vision to them. So.
Awesome. At this time now, we're going to open the floor for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and the microphone will be brought to you. And if you have a question online, please type it in, and one of our wonderful moderators will get that question to us.
Check. There we go.
Check.
I'm back here. Hi. My name's Logan, and I'm in film. One of you had mentioned checklists and that you go through them from pre-production to production. I was just wondering some of the things that might be on those checklists that you guys check off.
Are you in the film, the master program?
Bachelors.
Bachelors. Well, I'm sure you still, in your class, you get those checklists from your professor. You can always look those up and just add things up. Yeah, you just start from the bigger list to the small detail, and make sure you organize yourself. I think that's the key, just being organized and just staying always on top of things.
I think you can add so much to that question, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, look, checklists are various things. I mean, it depends on how you want to run your pre-production, because they can vary from different things on what you want to start to how you want to finish. Obviously, I said locations is a big one for me. That's a checklist. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about. Finding your department heads, that's a checklist. Those kind of things are all part of pre-production that should be on your checklists of finding great people, finding locations, finding the right wardrobe, it's just all of those things are checklists throughout pre-production. It's not like day one, you're doing a checklist of that day. That's, the checklist I think is more of a global pre-production kind of deal where you're dealing with it, and almost mentally, you know what I mean? Like trying to figure out what these things are, but yeah.
And I try to hammer you guys on this from orientation, but you have to write things down. You have to have a pad, a legal pad, a notepad, and you take a pencil or a pen and you actually write things down. I mean, when I'm in pre-production or even production, there are 130 things that people tell me every day. Hey, don't forget about that. Don't forget about this. And I'm a smart guy, but I can't retain all that. I mean, there's a lot going on. I have to write things down. You have to write things down. So every day there's a new checklist just based on conversations that I have. Every day of prep, new issues come up, new questions come up, new answers come up. You know, we're omitting things, we're adding things. It changes every day, so I have to write it down. I have all these legal pads at home with weird things on them, and I love to look back, and I was like, what does it even mean, you know?
On top of the fact the script's evolving through prep,
Yeah.
so it's constantly evolving.
Right.
So, you know, and just staying in tune with, you know, what he was saying is, you know, making sure you have things on paper is always good.
Write things down, notes, and again, if I give a PA some things to do, and they take out a little notepad that they got at CVS for $2 with a pen and write it down, my perception is that's going to happen. This is a person that's on top of it, and it's such a silly gesture, but it really, as soon as the physical act of moving that pen now ingrains that information in your brain to another level.
Such a good point too, Larry, because I had Catherine. She came and PA'd for me on my last movie with Bruce Willis and Hayden Christensen, and she had a pen out and she was writing it down. And actually, Bruce noticed and had her come be his assistant for the rest of the movie because she was efficient in writing things down. So I think and Catherine graduated from here.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good thing. The little $2 notepad is funny, and that's exactly what it is. It doesn't take a lot to make a big difference. I think that's it.
Catherine listened. Why don't you guys, listen? It's a good idea. It's a good note. Did you guys write that down? Write that down.
Plus, we have so many tools available nowadays, right? I mean, with Google Drive and laptops and iPads, it's almost crazy to think, that somebody will not write something, not even on paper, right?
So many
Just on
apps.
your phone. There's so much stuff out there, and tools that you can take advantage of.
I'm a little analog on that. If I call the PA over and I say, here's the 5 things I want you to do, and I see them take out their phone, then I think you're texting somebody or looking at Facebook. So you gotta,
He's old
remember.
school, though.
Yeah, there's baby boomers and Gen Xers, and as we get old and die, then you guys can take out your phones and make notes.
We don't want you to die, Larry.
Not yet.
Please.
It's gonna be a while.
Don't die on us.
No, not yet. I feel pretty good today.
And I think it doesn't have to be like a formal list. If you like sketching, if you like, I don't know, using your iPad, if you like, I don't know, Post-its, whatever you think you need to remember things, just use that. Those are your notes.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Zach. I'm in the film bachelor right now. You guys mentioned breaking down the script on it, but what is the hardest part of actually kickstarting pre-production at the very beginning of it? I mean, it's already been greenlit and all that, and you're ready to go, but what's the hardest part of getting the planning off the ground?
It's kind of exciting at that point. Everybody's fresh and ready to go. And
Especially if it's greenlit. If it's greenlit, then it's not really a difficult thing to get off the ground. It's just more of an anticipation thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, starting to push a train uphill a little bit, but it starts moving. That's the fun part,
And it's exciting because you get to brainstorm a lot, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's perhaps it's one of the steps of the process where you can allow yourself to brainstorm as much as you want and go with the crazy ideas, and then maybe break it down and say, okay, maybe this shouldn't be the thing we should be doing. Perhaps we should approach it this way, or perhaps we should, like Steven just said, we should change the script or this scene or that. So.
Especially in those first few days, because in those first few days and the first week, usually it's just your core. There's nobody's in the office yet. You're just really there with your first AD, maybe your production designer and your line producer, and you guys are just sort of like, you're just brainstorming, man, and just coming up what the movie's going to be. So by the time everyone gets there, it's a collective idea of what we're going to do for this movie, and kind of branch out from that. But that first couple days is really exciting because you're just, you're like little babies. You're like running around fresh, and you haven't been spoiled yet. So, until everybody else gets there and starts telling you you're doing it wrong. But anyway, it's exciting right off the bat.
We actually have two questions coming to us online. One is from a student, Joe Carson, in digital cinematography. And he wanted to ask about the fact that a lot of you have mentioned on the panel the phrase "here in school," and he was wondering, for those of the students who are online and might be in rural areas, what would you suggest they do to make sure they get hands-on experience?
I mean, there's production happening everywhere, some at some level. I mean, so you're not working on, Avengers, but there's some student films happening. You find like-minded people, and you have to get known in your community of filmmakers. But there's filmmakers everywhere, but you have to, kind of temper your expectations of what your first jobs are going to be. It's not going to be on a big, movie unless you're very, very lucky, but, you're passionate and you're making movies, and, that has to be, good enough when you're starting out. But wherever you're at, there's some other like-minded filmmakers, and you just got to find them and get together and start making movies,
And I think you're going to make the same mistakes. If you're here in school, you're in a big set, or you're at home, you're still making the same mistakes. And the important thing is just to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, absorbing as much experience as you can is important. So like Larry just said, you just get involved on stuff, regardless of how big the project might be or something. Especially, when you're just starting, it's like, you cannot really expect something in specific. You gotta get your hands dirty and get out there and start getting that experience that eventually will help you to get your foot in the door for, bigger tasks, obviously, so.
Yeah, I actually think there's no excuses no matter where you are. We all have cameras, we all have video right here. So it doesn't matter if you're at home or if you're here in school. I understand being at home, maybe you don't get to get on some of the gear here, but you have a camera. And that's a creative outlet to just start shooting and start learning a lot of these things, and just figuring out, okay, how would I shoot this scene? Even if it's on your iPhone, you're still learning framing. You're still learning, how to block a shot. You're still learning, what's my eye lines, what they should be, what line of the, what should I be, what side of the line should I be on? There's so many things that are in our hands now that people didn't have, 15 years ago. So for me, it doesn't matter where you are. You have the opportunity to do whatever you want.
We do have one other question coming from an online student, Sherrod Green, from Recording Arts. And he asked, what is the best way to get considered for opportunities? Is it contacting the studios directly? And if so, how do you go about doing that?
I'm going to jump in here because I've actually been a little through that. This past year, I moved to LA, but I've realized that you just have to be very bold about what you want to do. You cannot really allow yourself to kind of create this fancy plan of how you will get there. It's just simply knocking on doors, being ready, be prepared to be rejected 1,000 times, asking the right questions as well, not just ask for a job, perhaps I've been very lucky to run into many people, very interesting individuals from the industry where, sometimes I start asking for advice and then they end up, I'll recommend you, there's an opening for this position here or something like that. So you never really know where your next opportunity is going to come from. So, for the studio thing, and if you want to be on set, something that says where you guys will probably agree with me on this, say something more important than that. But something that worked for me very well was that I was able to get a lot of numbers for all these production companies. So I will be tracking down perhaps when I interview all these projects that that were currently in pre-production or something, and I would just call them just like that, asking, hey, are you guys looking for PAs, and stuff, people to support the production in any shape or form, and yeah, something surprisingly I was able to be on set a couple of days, and then some other times obviously I wasn't. So. You just have to knock on doors, I guess.
You gotta be creative.
Yeah.
Figure out how you get there. I know for just from personal experience, when I first went out to Los Angeles, me and my friend Will Clevenger, we would actually go to bars next to studios, because we assumed that when they were done shooting, they would filter into these bars, and that's who we would meet, the people we would need to meet to get our movie seen or help us get our movie sold. And it was. And so it's just being creative with it. It's not necessarily having to send applications everywhere or physically go to these studios as much as it is, looking online and who's the assistant, and then all of a sudden their Facebook, and then all of a sudden you're talking to them on Facebook, and maybe that's creepy, I don't know, but it's something, you know what I mean? Like that, but there's creative ways to do it nowadays because everything's connected social media wise, that you can find a way to do it, and then you don't need to be talking to the boss. You've been talking to the assistant who is going to get you maybe an assistant job where it starts. And so to me, that is what it's really about, is just trying to be as creative as possible and not think of just the norm or just what you think and how to get out there, but really open up the spectrum of what you could do to try to figure out how do you get in there. So yeah.
Has anybody ever got a job from submitting resumes to a studio? Sure, but that's one iron in the fire. So if you think you're just gonna hit send and send the resumes out to the studios and then kick back and wait for the phone to ring, that is not a good plan. So that's one iron in the fire. So then you talk to everyone in your family. Do you guys know anybody that does anything? Oh yeah, well my cousin's veterinarian sister is a casting assistant for kids on this TV show. So that's an iron in the fire. Contact that person. Let's have coffee. Let's talk. Maybe they can do something for you. Maybe they can do nothing for you. At least they know you. And then, you have to be creative. You have to make these opportunities. The jobs that you guys are looking for, it's not like, getting a job at Target or, they're extremely competitive. You guys have your work cut out for you when you get out of here. My first job was my stepsister's former roommate's ex-boyfriend's former roommate. That got me a job as an office PA on a movie. I didn't want to be an office PA necessarily, but when I moved to LA, it felt like the entertainment industry was like a big giant fortress, and there was a million people running around outside like looking for a way in. So you have to create an opportunity for a door to crack open, and it might not be the door that you think you want, but whatever it is, you dive in and you stick your foot in that door, and whatever you're doing, you do it the best you can, even if it's not the thing that you want. It's kind of like being the drummer in the band. So you're not the lead singer and you're not writing the songs, and maybe you don't even like the music, but you're the drummer, your job is to play the drums, so you back there, you pound those things the best that you can, and someone's gonna notice that, and then next time you get to be the drummer in a better band with better music. But no matter what, you don't ever want somebody to look at you and say, wow, that drummer is lazy, and they're just phoning it in. So, whatever opportunity presents itself, you have to be ready for it, and you have to make it happen. And so you want to have like 20 irons in the fire, and maybe one of those will come through, and maybe not. Maybe you need more, but you have your work cut out for you, and show up at a set. There's people that get jobs that way. They just show up on set and start helping out. Darren Bousman wanted to work for one specific production company, and so he sent a refrigerator box completely full of styrofoam peanuts to this guy's office, and with a resume in it. And so the guy opens the thing, and all these peanuts fly all over the office, and he pulls out the resume and calls Darren to yell at him for doing that. But he was bold and found a way to pry open a door. But it takes a lot of work, so you guys got to start thinking about that now. I don't care if it's your first month here, you better be anxious about who am I going to call when I graduate. Don't wait. And career development, that's an iron in the fire. Awesome. They can help you, but they're giving the same information to a lot of different people. So I think the coolest thing is you come to career development and say, hey, I found these opportunities. So you flip it on them. I found these opportunities for you because I'm pounding the pavement. But you got to be really cerebral about it and really think about what you're going to do and how you're going to make those connections.
And I think that's why it's so important to start networking from day one, here in Full Sail, because like in my current job, I get so many calls from my boss asking me, do you know any good editor, a good PA? We just need this person to show up tomorrow morning. And I do call people that I knew here in Full Sail. So start doing it as soon as you can.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I just had a quick question. I know you guys have had a lot of long productions, so I was wondering how you keep your morale up throughout the long production.
I've never had a movie more than 13. No. The reality is I've never had a movie longer than 17 days. But even keeping morale up when you're shooting that fast and that quickly and people get tired is something that, is difficult. Because you get into a mindset where you're just going, and you got to remember everyone around you is probably going twice as fast to try to keep up with you. And so, what I do to keep up that morale is I am the first guy on set every day. I'm the first guy to say hey to everyone in the morning. I'm also one of the last guys to leave high-fiving my grips, my electrics, my guys. I make sure that they know that I appreciate every day that they're there. Because I depend on these guys. And then I'm also hanging out with them at night. I'm also hanging out with them on the weekend. Like, I keep myself very involved with my crew because, I feel like that to me is a family. And so I think that is sort of what, for my sets, that's what the morale is. And they feed off whatever my energy is. And so I try to keep my energy as high as possible. Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about long production, talk about an episodic television show. So, it's 9 months of, working with the same people every day. And if it's a long running show, you could be doing that for on 7th Heaven or something like that for 10 or 11 years, for 9 months of a production schedule, 15-hour days, like that. So, I mean, for me, when I would feel myself get down or feel tired, I just remind myself how blessed I am to be in that position, and how many people would or think at least that they would love to be that tired as I am right now and standing on that set. But producers do a lot of things. A good producer will get the coffee truck on Friday and put it outside, and everybody can get coffee, or bring in the Mongolian barbecue guy on Tuesday, or like stuff like that. And then, we do gambling on set, like $5 Friday, where we, everyone writes their name on a $5 bill and puts it in a bucket. And at the end of the morning, because it's usually Friday and it's, we're wrapping at 5 in the morning, one of the PAs will reach in the bucket and pull out a $5 bill, and whoever's name on it wins all the money. So, there's like little things that we do on set, like that. But a good producer can sense when morale's gonna be low, or if it's gonna be the end of a 6-day week or something like that, and will do something nice for the crew to keep it up.
Yeah, and I think you should always talk to people. I found it very interesting that sometimes they, like actors, for example, they always need just to talk about their character or their lines. It's just a simple talk, and you just make sure you have the time to sit down with them or anybody and just talk about it. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, for me, it's as simple as just thinking this is what I always wanted to do. Well, I mean, I don't even want to explain to you, how my face looked when the moment they told me they hired me for the James Bond movie. I was just like, wow, are you kidding me? And I guess now that I've been working more constantly and stuff, it's whenever I feel a little, I don't know what to call it, tired, frustrated, whatever. I try to make myself useful. Maybe with someone else on set, maybe at the office, trying to see what else can we do for the producer, to make his life a little easier, or perhaps even just learning something new. There's always ways of staying motivated. This is a wonderful industry. It's exciting. It's always changing. You meet so many different kinds of people, and it's what you guys have. The opportunity of being able to be here, preparing to pursue those dreams that you've always had. It's great. So I mean, I'm sure you'll find different ways of motivating yourselves, because everybody's different. But just look at it as a blessing, like Larry just said. It's a great job.
And I mentioned yesterday in Life After Full Sail, but you also, have to take care of yourself, your body. You have access to a lot of junk food and donuts and candy, and if you eat that all day, it's going to affect the way that you feel. You put garbage in your body, then you're going to feel bad, and it's you got to stay hydrated. You got to drink a lot of water. I would really encourage you guys to invest in a decent mattress You know, there's places you cannot skimp. If you're gonna get 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night, you know, you want it to be like quality sleep. So if you get like a, you know, if you get the mattress off the curb that somebody threw out, and that's what you're gonna sleep on, you know, that's gonna affect you. You know, you're gonna be standing up on your feet for 15 or 16 hours a day. You need to have a decent pair of shoes. You know, that's one thing another thing that you guys don't really get a real taste of. You know, your longest project here is 4 12-hour days. You know, first of all, a 12-hour day will be the shortest production day you'll ever see in your life. You'll be like, wow, what are we gonna do now? Let's go out. It's crazy. It was only 12 hours. And then 4 days, you know, take that and extrapolate it over 3 months on a feature or 9 months on a TV show, and you're standing up on your feet that whole time. So, you know, you want to invest in a decent pair of shoes and a good mattress. Watch you eat. You know, exercise if you can, and you know, try to keep your body able to endure. You know what you're going to ask it.
So my question is, how easy is for you guys to delegate your chores and to trust your team? Because sometimes here is, I mean, since we're learning, it's hard to trust your team and to delegate everything because you're afraid they might not do it right.
That's definitely a limitation at the school. You know, your crew is your class. You don't get to pick, you know, who you're working with. But you know, the first AD that I usually work with, you know, says, you know, you're only as good as the people that you hire. So you have to, you know, when you do have the choice, and now you do not, so you have to do the best you can, and that means you might have to plan according to who's on your crew. So you might not be able to make the movie in your head because you don't have the talent surrounded you to do that. So you have to adjust. Hopefully in the real world, you'll never have to do that. You pick your team, and you pick people, you know, that you trust, and you have to be able to delegate. You have to be able to trust the people that are around you. So it's something you have to, you know, understand now. In school, it's a constraint, but you know, moving forward, you will have more say on that. Hopefully.
Yeah, in the real world, I mean, part of being a leader is trusting other people. You know, so if you don't trust your crew, then you know it starts to slip away from you. I think it's like Larry says, like once you're in the real world and you pick your team, you picked your team for a reason. So why second guess or why question what they're worth or what they're doing? I think you pick them because you believe in them, and so I think it becomes easier for you to trust them. It's, you know, it's like, okay, they got this. And also after they've done 1 or 2 movies with you, now your first hand, you know, the shorthand becomes very quick. I mean, my cinematographer is here, and we've done 4 movies together, and you know, he knows what lens I want before I say it. You know, so it's those kind of things. Once you've worked with people over a few things, it becomes repetition and it becomes shorthand, and all of a sudden it takes very easily for you to say, okay, you know, I said something and you're going off and doing it, and it's great, and you don't have to worry about it at all. But you know, you need to trust your team. That's just really important. Yeah.
And I think putting differences aside it's important as well, you know, especially here because it's a learning environment, you know, so nothing is going to be perfect, of course, you know, but what you can do is you know, assemble a team, or you know, or try to, I guess, try to be helpful to each other, you know, not make life harder, you know, to each other, because it's in the first place, you know, everything we do here, it's short films, you know, it's a learning experience, so you might as well take the best out of it, right, and make it as less complicated and just as productive as you can, so that even if you still make mistakes or your crew does, you know, you all learn about it, you know.
In collaboration too, from my personal experience as a director of my thesis film, I remember trying to. We wanted the set to be ready at a certain time, but it was just taking too long. So I just started helping the PAs because everything needed to be done. And even if you're the director, you can do so many things. You can just help people, collaborate with them, communicate with them. Just make sure everyone knows what they're doing. And sometimes they just need a little help. Sometimes just have questions.
All right, so my name is Mark Hutchins. I'm a self-taught indie filmmaker, and here getting my MFA in film production. Before I ask my question, Mr. Miller, you said you did 80 to 90 setups a day.
That's our average per day.
That is awesome. Yeah. Very impressive. My question would be, when you get out of the program, do you have a recommendation? I guess, Mr. Miller, you went out and just shot your feature.
I did.
You went out and you were very aggressive. same way I've kind of approached it. But do you have a recommendation to go out and just go big, or do you have a recommendation to go out and maybe try to get in as a PA, or do you feel like one?
You know,
one
it's
option is
tough
stronger?
because it's like it's been said before. There's no real formula to. It's all about your motivation and drive, and what you're motivated to do, and what you're willing to do to go big, because the consequences of going big are, you know, you have to be willing to go broke. You have to be willing to sleep in your car. You have to be willing to, for everything that you have around you, not to be there anymore, because that's what happens. I mean, it's very rare that you're able to make everything you want and it all works out perfectly. I mean, it does happen. We've seen it, and we all have probably friends that it's happened to. But I mean, for the majority of you, to go out and make your first feature is scary, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to take. I mean, I went out and made it. It took me 3 years to sell it after that, you know. And so those 3 years were 2 years in my car and a year of sleeping on friends' couches, and before it actually sold. So it wasn't a quick process. It's never going to be a quick process. I think even going out and getting a PA job is not a quick process. It all takes time, and I think you just have to be willing to decide very, you know, early how much time are you willing to give, you know, and what are you willing to lose to get your dream and make your dream happen. Everybody's different. There's no formula, but for me it was go big or, you know, go home, and so that there was just nothing else for me. So.
We do have another question from an online student, Shane Whitecloud, who's in digital cinematography. And Shane was wondering, how do you balance your home life with your work life, such as your family and your kids?
Steven's got kids.
I got kids. You know, I just try to be as present as possible at home when I'm home. I try to put my phone away. I try to make sure that they know that I'm there for them while I'm at home. And then when I'm on the road, it's just dedicating time to making sure that Daddy's calling and FaceTiming or whatever. You know, they're only 2 and 6, so it's not crazy, but yeah, it's just about delegating your time. I haven't found it to be difficult for me, and I think it also comes from when you find the person you love, that they understand what your job is, and that your job is, you know, demanding at times, and they understand that. So it's just a balance, and it's also communicating with them and making sure they know, hey, this is going to be what it's going to be today, and I won't get back to you till tomorrow. I mean, that's how it is. So, you know, it hasn't been too difficult for me. I've been very lucky that I've had films that are, you know, 3 or 4 months, and then I'm home for 4 or 5 months, and then back on, you know, so you just find the time.
I'm single, so it's been easy, you know, to be flexible. You know, but when I'm in production, you know, it's consuming.
Yeah.
And there is no time to do anything else. You know, so it's hard to imagine. But you know, I was never able. You know, my mom would say, "Hey, your cousin's getting married next February." Okay, well, let me know 2 weeks before, and I'll let you know if I can go. You know, there's no making plans. There's no buying plane tickets ahead of time. There's, you know, you couldn't confirm I could do anything at any point, because if an opportunity comes up, you know, I need to be available for that. And in a freelance world, you just never know. Mm-hmm. So you know, your family might not have any frame of reference for that. Anybody that has like a normal job would have no frame of reference for that. You know, you can say, okay, the wedding's next February. I'll go ahead and take time off and be able to do that. But, you know, I never bought a plane ticket more than a week in advance when I was living in LA and working in production. And then, you know, Steven's movie schedules have been pretty short so far, and it seems like a blessing, you know, with his family and stuff. But on big movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, it take a year and a half. Mm-hmm. There's people that have kids and they say, oh yeah, I make it work. But, you know, I don't know if that would work for me. But it's definitely hard to keep that balance. And when you're in production, it's very consuming.
Yeah, and I think you gotta find those things that make you relax, or those hobbies that you've been trying to do. If you like playing music, listening to music, reading a book, whatever you think, whatever it is that you like to do in your free time, after a production day, you just do that. Just go back to those hobbies and take the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. It's good to, and it's important to keep a balance. I'm very attached to my family, so every time I get the chance, I will give them a call, send them a text message, whatever. And yeah, like Eduardo said as well, taking advantage also of the time that you have, to do whatever it is that you like to do, besides work. It's just a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
Right here. My name's Charity, and I'm currently taking an online class for the master's in entertainment business. I've already graduated with my master's in film production here, so I'm kind of sticking around doing more. But my question for you guys is, currently none of you have talked about film festivals right now. So I'm curious to know if any of you have participated in any film festivals and whether or not you see success through that category.
Yeah, I mean, my first film, the reason it was bought is it was at a film festival. I was at the Los Angeles Film Festival. And so that's where the bidding war happened for my first film. And then my third film went to South by Southwest and was bought by Anchor Bay at South by Southwest. And then from there, the company that saw the aggression scale hired me to go make the next movie, which was the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. So, I mean, festivals are a huge part of my existence. Without them, I don't know, had my movies gotten sold, I don't know. But for me, they're fantastic. I mean, it's a great group. It's just like being here, except everyone's made some kind of feature that you're getting to experience and hang out with. It's a great environment. There's some of my friends, that's all they do, is they make movies for South by or, Sundance or whatever, and that's what they like doing. So for me, it's been awesome.
Yeah, for me, and actually, well, we had the chance to submit our thesis film to a couple of festivals, and we did great. But right now, specifically, I'm working at an international distribution film company. So we travel. We're actually going to be in the Cannes Film Festival in May, and I think the beauty of film festivals is that they give you so much exposure, right?
Yeah, totally.
And like he just said, you can make a short film, a no-budget short film, or a feature, and next thing you know, there can be a bidding war, over it, and then your career just takes off, So it's just great that you have that other, path to follow, as a filmmaker, right? And everybody has access to it. It's just a matter of, getting the right project in the door, and regardless of how big or small the festival is, it's just send it out there. You never know who's going to see it.
And the amount of film festivals there are now is crazy.
It's insane.
Everywhere.
Yeah. It's crazy. You don't have to send it all to the Berlin Film Festival. All of these, there's just so many opportunities out there. So and it's also, I think it's a great way to network. So it's a win-win situation. You get the film. You get it to a lot of people to see it, and in the meantime, you meet all these other filmmakers and potential, collaborators as well. So.
And that's a great point. Even if you didn't make a movie, go to film festivals.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience to hang out with people that are making movies or trying to figure out movies. But it's just networking, and you guys are so close to a lot of them. It's a great tool.
More irons in the fire.
More irons.
Need more irons. Film festivals have not been part of my trajectory. I'm happy to play the drums. I wanted to work on, big movies, and just as a fan of, those kind of movies, I just wanted to be on set and be part of making those. And so not that I'm not a creative person, but, that was what was going to be fulfilling for me. So I have not had a lot of experience in film festivals.
I have had a lot of really good experiences on film festivals. One of my films for experimental class actually got selected on Transylvania, Romania. The screening of the film was in a big castle in like a Dracula kind of thing. So it was totally unexpected, but it opened so many doors for me right now. I'm writing that story, rewriting it, because I have plans for that. But I never thought I would be rewriting that story. But it was because of those festivals that I got these opportunities.
Hello, my name is Brandon Ramirez, and I had a quick question for post-production wise. After you piece together your crew and you have everything ready, how do you get your crew together to have the same mindset as your dream and your vision for the film? Is there any tips for that?
For post-production specifically?
Yeah, just getting everyone on your crew kind of in the same mindset.
Well, post-production for me is usually, I don't really have a choice on where I go for post-production. That's usually the production who who chooses where we'll be, what facility we'll be editing. Obviously, I have a choice in editor, but for the most part, like where we're coloring the film, where we're mixing the film, all of that stuff is already preordained by the time I get here. But I think it's pretty similar to how I deal with day one of prep. I talk to my editor very early on and tell him what my idea for the films is, what my vision for the film is, and we try to get on the same page. And then when I'm on the mixing stage, I'm usually taking the whole first day to talk about what kind of sounds I like. But like I said, after you've worked with the same place 3 or 4 times, I can walk in the first day and they've got half the movie mixed, because they know what I like to hear. But it's just about communication. It's really simple.
I'm not involved in post-production usually, but I do have a funny Stephen Miller story. I went to LA and visited him on the dub stage when he was mixing Southern Fury, now called Arsenal.
Called Arsenal.
And right at the moment that I walked in was when they were putting the vomit noises in for somebody that was upchucking. So for like the 2 hours that I was visiting him, it was like blah, blah, blah. He's like juicier. Blah, blah.
I like vomit.
Good seeing you, man. I'm going to lunch. Okay, take care.
Oh man. Hello. Hey, I'm Kevin. I'm in the film program. So during your pre-production, you're probably asking for a lot of shots you want to get off, like your one. How many shots have you tried to wrote down, and when you went to your production, you didn't get to shoot? And Larry, how many times have you told the director that you couldn't get the shot they want to get off?
It's really my job to not say no to the director. I don't want to say no to the director. In my opinion, on your student films, if we ever have to say to the director, we don't have time for another take, then everybody screwed up. That's not where we save time. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to say no to the director. You have to have a shot list going in.
It's a very rare instance that I don't get the shots that we want.
Do you have like a shot list written down when you go in? Or?
We do, and specifically, interestingly enough, most Bond companies require a shot list from the director to Bond the movie. And so usually my shot list is the first week. And then by that, we're kind of an oiled machine and everybody knows where I'm going after that. But my shot lists are very minimum. I keep everything very minimal. I like everything pretty raw. So I like to keep moving really fast. It's very rare that we don't get the shot that I'm looking for because I don't have very many to choose from. I'm not Bay. I don't like 50 million cameras up and everywhere and going all over the place. I'm very specific. I like very graphic framing. I like longer takes, longer shots. So I'm very minimalistic with my coverage because that also means the studio can't fuck with my movie. So I keep it very precise. So that way it's built for the edit. And because I edit the movie in my head before I get there, the movie's pretty much cut when it lands in my editor's hands.
Yeah. And there's a producer standing by, and we just usually keep going and eat meal penalties and overtime. It's pretty rare that on a larger budget that they pull the plug. We're gonna keep going. Even if it means we have to offer hotels to the crew because it's we've been there for 15 hours. That's a sign of a good producer. Okay, we have to finish this up. We're gonna get what the director wants, but before we send people driving home that have been here for the last 18 hours, let's find a hotel that's close by. And let's build that in the budget so that we can keep people safe and all that stuff. But you have a professional crew of people that were brought together because they have experience. Then it's you have people that know what they're doing, and you usually can bang out the shots.
When I had a chance to produce my thesis film here 2 years ago, I was a first-time producer with a first-time director back at the time. I had directed stuff before, but so obviously I understood what a director was supposed to be doing. But having this guy and I was seeing how much he cared for the script and everything, we figured a way to create sort of like a wish list for him. So basically, the way we approached it was let's just make sure that we make this short film right. sort of playing it safe, and we'll have this list, and we'll make up some time to do that. Obviously, it's very, it probably sounds crazy to say that, right? Because obviously, sometimes you drag on time, and then, next thing you know, you look at the clock and you're already, what do you call it? You're just dragging, or it's taking you too long to get stuff done, and sometimes you cannot get all these, shots that the director wanted. But I think here it's something that it's doable. You can afford to do it. It's all of the projects that are done here, then again, are short films. So if you get the hang of it, probably you can apply it also in bigger, scale films, like the ones that these guys do.
I think you gotta have priorities too in those shots. If we're doing, take 15 of the big wide master shot at the expense of going in and getting close-ups, which is probably where we're gonna.
I think that's crucial
Yes.
information. You do not need to stay in a master for 20 minutes, or hours. Like your master will be used for 10 seconds.
You're
less.
right, and I know you all think, oh, we're gonna cut back to the wide. We're gonna cut back to the wide, but go home and watch whatever tonight, and you tell me if they.
When they ever cut back to the wide. Yeah.
So I mean, get it. You want to get a good master. You want to establish, the scene and all that stuff. But think editorially, like how are we gonna tell the story? And a lot of the student films, before I got here, it seems like they would run out of time. It would be master shot theater, and that's just not what the priority is. We tell the story in the close-up, so you have to know that that's where you should put your priority.
And you go into these knowing your times. You know what your limitations are. So you can start formulating a plan. Whether it's every take you're going to move the camera, so that way you're getting the coverage you need in the time you need. And that's a lot of the times what I'm doing. I know the take and how long I'm going to use that master shot. I know I'm going to use it for 10 seconds. Well, I'm not going to shoot the entire take of them talking in that entire master. I cut it off before they get too far, and I know, okay, now I can move. So you just have to sort of, prepare time-wise a little bit.
And Steven comes from is a gifted editor as well as a director, but you don't usually just want to shoot one edit. You do want to give your editor some choices going into it. He's got a different perspective, but don't forget you're gonna make the movie again in post. Make it 3 times when the script is written, and then during production, and then in post production. Sometimes I'll watch the finished product of the movie and be like, that doesn't even look like what we shot. That's completely different. The blocks have been moved around and stuff like that. So.
I think that's the beauty of filmmaking, is you all have your own style of how you want to approach the movie. You just have to be really prepared on what your style is and be consistent of what your style is, so your crew understands this is how you work, and they can adjust. And so that's important.
But if I'm on a student film and they're like, okay, master, take 15, I know that this is not the right priority. Don't burn out your actors on that big wide shot. Let's save that performance for
exactly.
Take 15 of the close-up at least.
Mm-hmm.
Testing. How's it going? Brendan Lee, computer animator. Yeah, you probably don't see a lot of my people here, but I've worked with a few master students in line of storyboarding, and I understand that some people have different opinions on it. I know Werner Herzog is really adamant in saying like, oh, it's for the cowards or whatever, but implementing this whole sense of getting good camera angles, how would you best describe the importance of delegating and expressing like your vision onto loose leaf paper to just have everybody see it, like cast and crew?
I think if you have time to do it, it's extremely important. I mean, if you have the amount of time and prep and money to do something like that, I think it's amazing, because obviously we're all visual people. So visually seeing something versus me just spouting it is always better for anybody on the crew when they can visually see what you're doing. And a lot of the times from my process, where I haven't had all of the money in the world on past films or my earlier stuff, or we didn't have time, I was pulling things from the internet, just to say, here's images from movies I love that are in this world. And to be honest, that's how I still talk to my cinematographer, as we talk in movie lingo, visually. But I do think any kind of artwork or anything you can bring to the table to show your vision is important.
I have a definitely a perspective on that. Anything that you can do in prep to get everybody on the same page, but I think that that we made storyboards because film was too expensive to practice the shots with. So we made a visual representation so that we can express to everybody what the shots and what the angles and all that stuff were. But now, everyone's got a movie camera in their pocket. So, first, I think another thing that makes me a little nuts is when I go on set and I see the director saying, okay, and then the actor walks in here, and the camera's doing that, and the other actor comes down, and, this means like 50 different things to 50 different people. This is not an effective way. So then you show them a storyboard. Okay, now we're talking, but it's still like a flat, my brain still has a hard time looking at storyboards, even with the moving arrows and stuff on there, and really visualizing that. Even after all this time, my brain still can't really do that. So when we would do big, stunt sequences and special effects stuff, we would hire a computer animator to make a previs, and it was frame for frame animated version of what we were going to shoot. And when we showed up on the day, we would pull it up and say, this is the shot we're doing. And everybody looked, and it's a moving shot. And if I am on the reel that they made me here, you can see some of the previs is next to the actual movie, and it is frame for frame. So what I encourage you guys to do in prep is to do a previs, but take your film camera, go onto the set if it's built. You don't need the actors, you just need stand-ins, and let's see if your ideas are going to work. Okay, here's the lens that we think we're going to use. Here's the move that we think we're going to use. And then you do all the shots with the composition and cut it together, and now you're talking about a plan that is going to work. And now you show everybody on the crew, and they say, hey, what are we doing today? Play, we're doing that. And there's like no question about it. So, I think it's a really important tool, and especially for you guys that are still, growing as filmmakers. If we're on the clock, and you're trying to figure out 180s and eye line and all that stuff, you are wasting time. You're stealing time away from the director to be getting a good performance out of the actor. So let's figure all that stuff out ahead of time. We watched a 24-hour film festival submission yesterday, and it's just two dudes in a room, but they got lost in that coverage, and it was a little jacked up, and they could have figured that out. But on the day, if you're trying to figure that out, you're boned. So yes, storyboard's important. I would take it to the next level and do a previs and cut it together, and now you're talking about we have a plan that we absolutely know is going to work. And if you're that dialed in and you show up on the day, now you have the flexibility for the DP to say, hey, we know the shots that we need, but while we're here, why don't we push in and get a closer lens to give us even more options in editing. So yeah, but if you're a computer animator, you have an opportunity to be a previs artist. That's a cool avenue that you can explore.
You can always use that as a tool to prioritize your shots too. Like if you see the overall picture, then you're like, no, maybe I don't need that shot. Maybe we can just cover it this other way. So I think it's just so helpful.
Yeah. Vectorworks is also a great tool, I think, especially for people that aspire to become production designers and all of that stuff. I love it because you can also pre-visualize shots ahead of time and stuff. So yeah, you got all these tools at your disposal, and like they both said, just having like very tangible references so that people can get into the feeling of it. Play them a scene, show them, and then show them how you actually want to cover that.
One of the coolest portfolio submissions that we have for a director for one of the final projects, he got Legos. And he took his camera and he did the shots from his film with the composition and everything using Legos, and he submitted that to us, and it was like, instead of the director trying to describe, well, they're going to come in and the sun's going to be shining and the two guys are going to be standing there, he had this thing to show us, like, bam, here it is. Wow, cool, creative, and we all now know what you're talking about,
Hello, my name is Rachel Butts. I'm graduating next month from the Master's Film Production Program. First of all, thank you all for being here and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. My question to you is, yes, we are learning all these great things here from Full Sail and from you too, but one thing we do not have in this degree program is a course to keep our sanity when we're on set. So I see a lot of people lose it on many sets, and it's kind of disturbing to me because I have a background in human resources, and that's something you get terminated for when you're in the real world. In your world, what we do here and out there in the field, how do you keep it together? Or if you see someone in your crew who's about to lose it, how do you help them keep it together?
It's just a movie.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I mean, it's just that simple. But also, Larry said it earlier, where you're kind of looking around and you could be working at Subway, you know what I mean? But you're on a movie set. I don't understand the problem. I don't understand getting upset or losing your temper or yelling at anybody. That's not allowed on my set at all. And that's something I make precedent on day one, that there is no raised voices at anybody. This is not a set where we're going to be yelling. I don't do that. I have a lot of fun. I keep it fun, and I think that's just something that spreads. Like I said, it's like a virus. You spread it, and so. But yeah, it's a movie. We're not rocket science.
No drama, no drama.
It's not rocket surgery.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun, you know. So I think one very important thing is just to make sure everyone knows what they have to do, but also make sure they have fun, because like I don't know who mentioned that, but it's just gonna go.
Yeah, it's not like obviously things go wrong, like we've said, and things happen, and you're going to get stressed. That's no doubt. You're going to get stressed for time, all that stuff. But stress is different than anger and lashing out at everyone. Stress can be internalized. You can figure it out, and you can work it out with your team. You know, that's something completely different than being angry at everybody because you're not getting what you want. That's being a baby. But you know to me, you know, it's just a film set that you're with your friends and you're making a movie. That's how I look at it.
You know, if it's a safety thing, you know, that's one thing.
That's one thing.
We're super diligent about that. But, you know, generally speaking, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get fired, you know, so it's a freelance world. You know, it happens a lot. I've never been fired. Pretty close, but a lot of my friends have, and they're still successful. And, you know, that's the worst thing that can happen is that you get fired. And so I had, you know, bosses that yelled at me every day on Desperate Housewives. There was a producer named Larry, so the first AD called me Junior and would yell at me, Junior, every day. Every single day would yell at me. And, you know, it's just how do you respond to that? How do you react to that? It didn't bother me, you know, and I would say to myself, the worst thing that this guy can do is fire me. He's not going to hit me. I wish he tried to hit me. He's not going to hit me. He can't come after my family. He can't say, you're never going to work in this town again, kid. So I just let him yell at me. And, you know, I would a couple times be like, hey, look, Tom, you don't have to deal with me that way. I'm smart. I can do this any way you want. If you feel the need to do that, that's fine. I'm not intimidated by you at all. So if you feel the need to do that, that even pissed him off even more. But, you know, even the housewives would walk up to me and go, damn, what'd you do to that guy? Why's he yelling at you like that every day? So it is a management style on set. There are yellers and screamers. It's not my style. It's not Steven's style. You don't have to be like that, you know, to be effective. But you are going to run into that.
You're going to run into it.
And again, all you can control is your attitude. You control whether you get butt hurt or not. You know, how tough is your butt going to be? You don't have to get butt hurt if someone yells at you. You decide whether you're going to get butt hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to develop a lot of thick skin in this business, right?
Buns of steel here.
Lots of steel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My name is Jesus. This is a question for Steven. I saw your film Arsenal the other day, and I was wondering what was the biggest problem of filming that in a short amount of days.
The hardest thing about, you know, doing that movie in the short amount of days is I also had the actors for a short amount of days. You know, I only had Nicolas Cage for a day, so I had to shoot 25 pages of Nicolas Cage in one day. I had John Cusack for 3 days, so I got to shoot 30 pages of John Cusack in 3 days. So those obstacles, on top of only giving me 13 days to make the movie, feel monumental at the time. You know, when you're trying to figure out how do you make this movie in that amount of time, how do you make sure the actors are happy and don't feel like you're speeding through their takes, how do you make sure the crew is happy and not being like, how the hell is Steven going so fast? I mean, it's just, you know, there's all kinds of things going on through your head, and I think for me it just all comes down to sort of relying on my team that we talked about earlier, and trusting that they're doing what they do really well and having my back. And just sort of keep pushing. And I do that. I just keep pushing. And luckily, me and Nick had hung out quite a bit before he showed up for his one day. And so when he was there, he's one of the greats. And I remember specifically saying, because I shoot my rehearsals as well. I shoot everything. And so I would tell him, hey, look, I'm going to shoot rehearsals. I hope that's cool with you. And, Nick, the great line was just like, I'm on your train, dude. you know. And so once you know that you have that trust from someone like that, all of a sudden it starts to just work and move and go. And I think that was our record day with Nick was like 140 setups that day. You know, we blazed. We had not only shooting normal with Nick, we also had to bring in the Phantom camera and shoot all his slow-mo action scenes that you saw in the movie, which are all over the place. So it's a very difficult thing, but you know, made it work. You saw the movie.
You guys can't shoot 140 setups a day.
All right, look like we have run out of time. I want to thank you guys so much and thank our special guests.